Were you planning to retire in just a few years but got laid off early? What are the considerations you need to be thinking about? We'll cover that in today's video. In today's video, I want to tackle a mailbag question about being laid off just a little earlier than planned. There's considerations around whether you should be paying off debt earlier, what you should be thinking about right before you retire, such as health insurance and so on, as well as how to handle your equity compensation. I'm Matt Nelson, and I've been helping people retire for over 25 years with my group at Perspective 6. I'm joined today with Jacob LaRue, who's a lead advisor on our team, and he spends a lot of his time on financial planning and tax topics. So thanks for coming back and helping us kind of tackle this question, Jacob.
I'm glad to be here. This is a good one.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. So I'm going to just read this question to set up some context. And so it's a question from Harry in Minneapolis. I plan to work for another 5 to 6 years, but was just told that I'll be terminated at the end of the year, which is about 2 weeks after my 60th birthday. I'll be getting significant severance package equal to 1 year's salary, and I'll have 90 days to exercise all of my stock options, which will amount to more than $125,000. My question is, should I use all of this cash to pay off my house and then just retire with the money in my 401k? Or should I hold on to the cash for now and try to find another job or consulting gig? So, I mean, this is a great question. There's a lot to unpack, and it's not too uncommon. A lot of times clients will come to us and they have in their mind, hey, I've got 2 more years, 3 more years, whatever marker they have in their mind. And they think that is that's the thing they got to meet. Right. And this could be happening to Harry. We don't have all of his details yet, but he had this idea of another 5 years, and, plans change. Jacob, as we were preparing for this, we kind of looked at it a little bit like a case study,
right?
Thinking about, hey, look, if Harry showed up at our office, how would we even begin to unpack all those questions and what he should do? What was the first thing that came to your mind?
Yeah, I think when we get these types of questions, the first thing that always comes to our mind is the why. Harry had mentioned that he was thinking of retiring 5 to 6 years from now. We'd like to know why. Why was he thinking that was his time? Was it because he enjoyed his work? Or was it because he just didn't feel like he was financially secure enough to retire today? We like to dig deep into those types of questions and really get to the reason behind the original thought, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. It sounds a little meta and like, oh, why are we spending so much time on this? Let's just jump right into the taxes and that sort of thing. But I mean, all of these items have to line up and point to what is your purpose? What are you doing? Why are you, just like you said, why are you looking at a 5-year number? What are you going to be doing after you retire? How much money is that going to take? So I think you're spot on. We'd want to put some of this initially on hold and just get a sense of what's the timeline going to look like right before, right after retirement, 5 years into retirement. And before we can really answer all these questions he has, it'd be helpful to just really have a more of a detailed plan set up, detailed financial plan. But since we don't have that luxury, because we're just trying to answer this on a 15-minute kind of response, let's just get into some specifics of what someone like Harry would need to consider. There's some early retirement specifics. We have a checklist actually that we can share. Let me just share my screen now, and these are some items you want to consider before you retire. And Jake, why don't you just walk us through, how you would talk to a client about this?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people when they retire probably think of some of these things, but maybe not all of them. But from a very high level, when you retire, you're not going to have income more often than not from your job anymore. You're going to lose your paycheck. So that's the first thing on everybody's mind is, where's my cash flow going to come from? So we really like to dig deep and just, lay out your different inflows that you might have in retirement, whether you have a pension When's your Social Security going to turn on? What are your monthly expenses? Maybe this is the perfect time to, review your last 3 months of expenses and say, okay, I'm spending $5,000 a month. I need to know if that's going to be able to be pulled from my investments or not. Just to really lay a foundation for that cash flow plan is where we like to start.
Let me just interject there too with, having the timeline in place then helps understand, are some of those expenses you have today only going to last another 2 years? And then maybe 4 years out, you have a whole different set of expenses. So a lot of times we'll see these expenses and these income sources kind of layer in and out, and they're coming back and forth. And that's why taking an overly simplistic, I guess, approach to, I have this bucket of assets and I spend this much today and, oh, well, that should work. I think that misses a lot of the nuance that's important as we go into this.
Exactly. Yeah. There's these little levers you can pull, is what we like to tell clients. And sometimes those levers can extend your retirement plan multiple years, meaning your money lasts multiple years longer, which is what everybody wants really in retirement. So a lot of little things to adjust here and there. The other big one, if you're only 60, Harry, and you're about to maybe be retired, you need to consider health insurance. I mean, you'll probably get some COBRA insurance from the job that you're leaving. But after that, we need to develop a plan. Is the health exchange going to be an option for you? Medicare doesn't happen until age 65, so you got to look for private insurance or your personal health insurance, which is an added cost that some people don't think about. And on top of that plays into your income too, because we've talked about this before, but your income can make or break how much you're paying in health insurance premiums month to month if you're an early retiree.
Yeah, it makes me think. You mentioned the marketplace and the health insurance options, and that could kind of speak to his question about where should I spend from. Just do a brief breakdown of why it's important when you're not yet Medicare age to be trying to keep your tax level low.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say you had this cash from stock options. That money is going to be pretty tax favorable if you hold on to it at capital gains rates. Whereas if you have a 401k, well, if you take $100,000 from your 401k and that's all pre-tax, that money is going to directly flow to your tax return, and that's going to impact your health insurance premiums on a monthly basis. So really picking and choosing what to spend from, what bucket to spend from, if you will, those first few years of retirement is really important because, like I said, a little tweak here and there can be the difference between $100 in premiums more or $100 in premiums less on a month-to-month basis.
Yep, absolutely. That can really, and it can be counterintuitive where you spend from. Like when clients come to us at first, they have a sense of like, well, I'll just spend from my 401k because that's my retirement money. But where they spend from could be a huge savings in their health insurance side. All right, good. We also were identifying, he asked about his equity comp, and this one's, we're gonna have to make some assumptions here. That's the problem, is because equity comp is obviously pretty broad. And so we would need to know, are they non-qualified stock options? Are they incentive stock options? Are these just RSUs? We'll make some assumptions here. He does have 90 days to execute. So they're probably stock option related. The thing that came to my mind is if he's leaving the job at the end of the year, then now we get some choice because he has that 90 days to either look at exercising his stock options in the current year or pushing it to the next year. And that's really helpful. I mean, if he was getting terminated, mid-year, well, you don't get that choice. So it's kind of ideal that maybe we could push some of his income into the following year. But now the question becomes, if they were incentive stock options, do you really want to sell those? He's asking about, should we sell that to pay my mortgage off? It's possible that he would want to hold the mortgage and take advantage of the tax advantages of an incentive stock option. Maybe exercise that, hold it for the 2-year hold, and get a little better tax deal. Any other kind of thoughts on that?
No, yeah, I think that's right on the money there. I mean, if we can optimize the ISOs by exercising them now, starting that tax clock, if you will, early, and then 2 years from now, we'll have some cash flow that comes into play that can be really flexible for his spending. So I like that strategy.
Yeah, and it does dovetail with the mortgage question itself. You had pointed out when we were talking about this, like what if his mortgage is like a 3%? We've seen
Right.
that. We've got quite a few clients with that.
Yeah, everybody was refinancing, what, 5 years ago now, 6 years ago now. So it's pretty common for these retirees the last few years to have a pretty good interest rate on their mortgage. And, in our minds, mortgage or any debt doesn't feel great. People don't want to retire with debt. But if the interest rate is cheap enough and you have a sizable portfolio that can generate, good yield off bonds, or even just good performance between a stock portfolio and bond portfolio mix, you're likely going to get over 3% on like a 10 or 20 year period. It's not a guarantee, but it's very likely. And right now, interest rates are high. So your money markets or even treasury bonds or T-bills are yielding more than 3%. So it's kind of like a cost benefit there.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess the basic answer to him is, maybe don't rush to pay that mortgage off necessarily. Now, there could be other reasons, but just from the initial facts he's kind of laying out, possible he's going to be better off just holding that mortgage to take advantage of, again, not quite knowing exactly what kind of stock options he has, maybe taking advantage of some things there. And then worry about paying off the mortgage later, maybe slowly. We have plenty of time, but we didn't fully address one part of his question, which was, or should I go back to work and kind of in the gig economy or part-time? I think this comes back to the why that you brought up in the first place. If you really like working and you actually need something to keep busy, feel free to do it. If you have enough saved up, but you're bored at home, that's not going to be a great life either. So back to having a plan, having a purpose, having a plan set up, that's really going to be the first and best use of your time trying to figure this out. And it looks like you do have some time up until the end of the year. So I'd encourage you to put some time and effort into that.
Yeah, this is a very common question, like we said, and we get this one from clients, and sometimes you'd be surprised, like what they can make on their own just from like a consulting gig. So if that's something that Harry's thinking about exploring, I say do it, and just earn a little bit here and there. It actually helps your retirement plan out too, because now you're not pulling so much from the portfolio early on. So explore it.
Absolutely. Well, great. I mean, that's, it's all the time we had today. We just wanted to kind of hit one of the mailbag questions we thought was interesting to unpack. If you want to learn more about the team behind the MedTech Wealth Advisor, you can visit our website at perspective6group.com. We're going to link to the comments, the checklist we were going over today. So if you find that helpful, feel free to download and use it as you'd like. And until next time, remember, financial freedom takes more than money. So find your purpose, make a plan to live your life well. Take care of each other out there.